real motivation. They like candor more than mere civility. Now, just to be on the record here, civility, kindness, warmth are beautiful. I love them, I talk about them, I write about them, I advocate for them. They are not enough. That is only a foundation for a great team, for great productivity, for a breakthrough. Above that, you have to have real candor. Forthright as needed, in your face, honest conversation, which because we're polite, because we're kind, we often check. And I like that about you, that makes you a decent person. But what I'm here to tell you is that sometimes you gotta take that governor off, stop limiting yourself, and say what needs to be said, because you would much rather deal with a little bit of fallout or ruffled feathers or somebody who didn't quite like what you said. You'd much rather deal with that on occasion than dealing with people who just kind of hear a banal, blind, simple, vanilla comment from you, aren't sure what you meant, but nobody offended anybody, and we get to move on. That never made any team ever awesome. But it starts with being a little more real and authentic. Absolutely a little more of a human. I like to say it this way. You can be a great professional, and you darn sure should be if you want talent to come to you and help you grow towards bigger and better and interesting goals. But you better not only be a professional. You have to be a person. This will sound strange to some of you because you think, well, there's home life and there's friends, and this thing over here is radically different. It's called business. No. What the science tells us is that humans want to bond with other humans. Let me say that again. They want to go to work and not just feel good about a transaction where they finish a task and get $1 from you. That's part of it. I don't disavow that at all, of course. But the question is, will they do more than just comply with your orders? There's compliance, minimally doing what you ask of them. Good for you if you can accomplish that. That's just them knowing that they don't want to be fired, they need a paycheck, and they're scared of your awesomeness or whatever thing that it is that you radiate at work as the leader, as the owner. What you really need them to do is to get committed. And that is a higher level thing, a harder thing, and it doesn't mean you got to pay them more. I'll say that again. If you want to move past compliance towards the thing that makes companies not only survive a coronavirus, but make strategic plans that kill it so that you're being written about in a few years because you guys did things that are just amazing. Well, that takes great talent, and they won't come to you unless you're also an interesting person, not just a professional. You have to let them know a little more about the human behind the titles, the accolades, the wins, the money, the degrees, the other things we too often lead with. Now, I'm not saying you're not supposed to project confidence. I'm not saying you're not supposed to put your best foot forward and brag once in a blue moon, because nobody will take care of you as good as you'll take care of yourself. We all know this. Having said that, if you don't lighten up and let them laugh at you, see the flaws, see the scars, hear the story, see the flaws, see the scars, they will never move meaningfully past mere compliance towards that thing that changes teams and organizations and lives, called commitment.
Motivation for the motivated. Motivation for the motivated.
Creativity is vital for organizational success. Creativity is absolutely vital for the success of your career. Creativity, the coming up with something new and useful about how we do things at work, right? The idea is that doing the same thing tomorrow is not good enough. If you want to be truly great, we've got to improve. We must be creative and embrace innovation. This matters for your career. I'll tell you why. It used to be that if you were hardworking, if you had a great personality, you know what? If you became a subject matter expert in something, you were going to get a promotion or 2 or 3, but not anymore. No, it's competitive. In the world you face, you've got to do something extra, and that extra is creativity. Making things happen. We must be creative and embrace innovation. Creativity. Making things happen. We must be creative and embrace innovation. Creativity. And it's not always easy because, man, organizations say they love creativity, and they usually are full of it. They say they want new ideas, and then new ideas are treated so poorly when they show up at work, it's just unconscionable. They are criticized, they are beaten on. It is rough waters for anyone crazy enough to try and be creative, a change leader, making things happen. But you're going to do that, and I'd like to help you do that. as best I can in the name of creativity. Look, there will be ups and downs. I know this personally. I've tried things that worked out, and I got lots of applause. I've tried things that failed, and they were setbacks and miserable, and that's okay. Your time, your energy at work, very limited, which means you have to focus on what matters. And I'm here to tell you, having been inside of many, many organizations, we waste so much time and energy on things that matter less, I'll say, as opposed to things that are so interesting and important. If we get them right, they will move us forward. Creativity is vital for organizational success. Creativity is absolutely vital for the success of your career.
Motivation for the motivated. Motivation for the motivated.
Brutal! There's 3 rules to make you a flat-out better manager of your time, to find the time to invest in that little red area where you're not doing your job, but you're doing the self-improvement thing, whatever flavor of that you choose to indulge in. Number 1 out of the 3 rules, 80/20. Have you heard the Pareto principle? Most of you have, I know that, but you probably never thought about it in terms of time management. And when I found out that everyone knows and understands that basic idea, but hasn't applied it to time management, I got very excited because it's darn simple and useful. The idea for the Pareto principle, give or take, goes like this. 80% of stuff often gives you 20% of what matters. You can't just plant a seed in a weird place. You have to prepare the soil for that seed. You have to prepare the soil for that. Get back to profits. 20% of your products actually create 80% of your profits, things of that nature. So what I want you to do is think about how you use your time. You don't know how you're using your time until you start documenting it. People will go, wow, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 really interesting insights, ways I was over-investing in this, under-investing in this. And until we get to be documentarians, we often don't know it. So do that. Number 1, 80/20. For you, the 20% are the tasks, the people, and the project that flat out are most important and will make you and the team better. The tasks, the people, the projects that will make you better, will help you if you really maximize your interaction, your effort with them, will make the team move forward faster. The 80%, and this is really brutal. You can't just plant a seed in a weird place. You have to prepare the soil for that seed. You have to prepare the soil for that. Listen, when you're focused on that documented list over at least 1 week, you are going to find, in ways that might make you uncomfortable, how much you're over-investing in the 80% of stuff that you just gotta do instead of the 20% that matters the most. I didn't say anything is unimportant. I know you got a big plate. I'm saying get brutal about how you manage your time.
Motivation for the motivated.
You know, sometimes the things in life that are most challenging turn out to be those things that are most enriching, that teach us the most. If, and that's a big if you're willing to learn something, if you choose the right perspective. You see, what we need in the face of big challenges is perseverance. Now, here's what most people don't know. Perseverance can arrive for you from a negative place with negative energy, or from a positive place full of possibilities. Too often we use anger and frustration, even hatred, in certain very difficult situations to get us through, and it works. But it does damage when we choose that version of perseverance. So when I think about breaking barriers, I think about the positive path forward, the one that feeds your soul instead of leaving a hole in it. The one where you see challenges and choose, because everything in life is a choice. You choose to see the glass half full, to find the silver lining. Choose. Find the silver lining. The silver lining. And choose. They gave Dad a few
few weeks if he was lucky. He lived for the better part of 2.5 years through many rounds of chemo before it eventually got him. And during that time, a whole lot of it was in really good shape and really good spirits. I watched a person choose perspective, choose a path towards perseverance defined by a positive outlook, which is a choice. It's a choice. When he saw you, he smiled and he meant it. When you fed him food, he was grateful for it. And it was obvious. He saw you, he was gonna hug you. He had real gratitude. Choice every day. The doctors, who I saw many times during this journey, pulled me aside and told me, I can't prove this the way I want to scientifically, but I'm telling you right now, the best explanation for his unexpected longevity and good spirits is the fact that he woke up every day and made the choice to frame that situation as positively as possible. I love that lesson that he taught me, and it applies to any challenge that you face as well. Absolutely, positively, any challenge can be seen positively or negatively. Dad's choice was wise. Now, as a social scientist, I can tell you, anyone can adopt that perspective. Anyone can choose to see glass half full, lesson learned, silver lining, opportunity. And I'm reminded every time I face a challenge that I'm so lucky my dad taught me that lesson, and I'm grateful to share it with you. The next time you face a serious challenge, I hope you'll remember it as well. Good luck.
Motivation for the motivated. Motivation for the motivated.
What are you so afraid of? It's easy to say, but we probably should talk about it just a little bit. Really, what are you so afraid of? We all have fears, right? We know that fear of failure, fear of being critiqued and not loved, not accepted, all kinds of fears. I know that, but the truth is, they're not nearly as well founded, as justified, as rational as you think they are.
Choose a path towards perseverance defined by a positive outlook, which is a choice. Positive outlook. Positive outlook.
Hey, when I'm looking in the mirror, do I think I have some passion, real interest in doing what it is I'm about to do today? And if the answer is no, then why am I doing it? I think to say great effort will be required, and then you got to embrace this idea. Every time you decide to do A, it means you cannot do B. An opportunity cost is what it is. The truth is to go become excellent and then help yourself and help others become better as a result of your expertise, your energy, your character. Well, guess what? That means you can't go do other certain things. Hey, what are you afraid of? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Things don't go well when you try stuff. Oh, you don't always look like a star. People don't always love you. Ladies and gentlemen, with respect, I say, get over that. Those are not worthwhile goals. They're not realistic. They are not what it means to breathe effectively and do something with your life. No, you're supposed to try stuff knowing it won't always work. Because why? That's a beautiful thing. That's the catalyst for learning, growth, and improvement, which means if you actually value success, you've got to really start by saying, well, I'm not worried anymore about failing, because failing is a core part of what it means to get better. So the question is, what are you afraid of? Most of those fears are small, should be small, not large, because they're really not backed up by a whole lot other than moments of feeling weird, if you're smart, followed by learning something that moves you forward.
Motivation for the motivated. Motivation for the motivated.
So I want you to leave here with some simple, useful ideas that, well, maybe change how you think about yourself and how you think about your team. Are you going to make the investment? Are you going to clock the time? Are you going to say no to that so you can invest over here and do what it takes to be successful? It's not an ambiguous equation, but it is difficult, and it asks you this question: how do you feel about making sacrifices? And it asks you this question: and how do you feel about making sacrifices? How do you feel about making sacrifices? Excellence, success is going to take time. The real question is, do you love what you're doing so that you don't think about that time? But if you go study almost anyone who's very successful, they'll tell you exactly what I'm saying.
Success is going to take time. The real question is, do you love what you're doing?
I'd go so far as to say it's not good or bad per se. The question is, how do you feel about it? Because it is a truth that you have to deal with. And I know when people like me push you to do even more stuff, one of the first thoughts that always hits your brain is, look, man, that sounds kind of reasonable, but I'm a busy person. Don't you get that? I have enough to do. You don't understand the pressures. I have no time to think about personal development, etc., etc. The answer is simple and it's painful for a lot of people, and it goes like this. You have to learn to stop doing some of the things you're spending time on, because by definition, you will not get much better unless you take some of your time and reallocate it to self-improvement. More is always possible.
Motivation for the motivated. Motivation for the motivated.
I want you to start thinking deeper. I want you to start thinking about authenticity and how to relate to people in your professional life a little more realistically. Lower the wall just a little. Let someone human you out. Show your ink.
People are saying things because they think it's popular.
Show your ink.
People are saying shit because they think you want to hear it. Can you relate to that?
Show your ink.
People are managing impressions.
Show your ink.
People are posturing. It's reasonable to say. It's safe to say. None of these explanations should blow you away and make you feel like they're awesome, but they are dominant explanations for why people say things to you, especially as a boss or an owner, every single day. So, what does that mean happens to performance? Well, the science is very, very clear. The more we walk around with plastic, distant, measured, lacking in authentic, really vibes, relationships means that you're going to underperform. That's absolutely what it means. You don't have the trust, you don't have the comfort, you don't have the rapport. You're going to underperform. That's absolutely what it means. You don't have the trust, you don't have the comfort, you don't have the rapport. But I got to tell you, it's one thing to say you should be more authentic. It costs nothing and it builds rapport. I know that, but then people, smart people, will look at me and say, yeah, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. Isn't there a risk to being authentically you in a professional context? Well, yeah, there is. So I'll tell you some advice that maybe is useful. Start by using common sense. If you authentically want to talk about religion or politics at work, bad idea. Don't do that. You've got to use obvious common sense. That's number one. Number two, I love sharing this with people. If you're an amazing performer, it is crazy what you can get away with in terms of expression and being fully, authentically you.
Motivation for the motivated. Motivation for the motivated.
So I want you to leave here with some simple, useful ideas that, well, maybe change how you think about yourself and how you think about your team. Are you going to make the investment? Are you going to clock the time? Are you going to say no to that so you can invest over here and do what it takes to be successful? It's not an ambiguous equation, but it is difficult, and it asks you this question: how do you feel about making sacrifices? And it asks you this question: and how do you feel about making sacrifices? How do you feel about making sacrifices? Excellence. Success is going to take time. The real question is, do you love what you're doing so that you don't think about that time? But if you go study almost anyone who's very successful, they'll tell you exactly what I'm saying.
Success is going to take time. The real question is, do you love what you're doing?
I'd go so far as to say it's not good or bad per se. The question is, how do you feel about it? Because it is a truth that you have to deal with. And I know when people like me push you to do even more stuff, one of the first thoughts that always hits your brain is, look, man, that sounds kind of reasonable, but I'm a busy person. Don't you get that? I have enough to do. You don't understand the pressures. I have no time to think about personal development, etc., etc. The answer is simple and it's painful for a lot of people, and it goes like this. You have to learn to stop doing some of the things you're spending time on, because by definition, you will not get much better unless you take some of your time and reallocate it to self-improvement. More is always possible.
Motivation for the motivated. Motivation for the motivated.
More
Let them see the real you.
If you want whatever amount of praise and recognition and awards that you use to have impact, not a box checked, hey, I did that, I know I'm supposed to do it, so I'll do it once in a while. No, to have impact, to make people care, feel like your gratitude was real, want to come back and work harder as a result, real motivation. You want that to work? You have to remember the golden rule of all praise and all awards, which is to connect the use of them to the production of excellence. Let me say that again. We used to understand that clearly exceeding expectations was the goal we're all supposed to chase, and somehow over the last 30 plus years we replaced that with showing up, doing what you're asked, being on time. Uninteresting, unmotivational goals that we all really just should do. And yet people very often expect more. We created generations of trophy kids for so long. You kind people are now looking at certain employees. I think of them as trophy employees. And they show up on time for 6 months and they think that's so highly meritorious that they deserve a raise. They do exist. You know what I'm talking about. The number one rule by far, and you got to apply it to yourself harder than them if you want them to believe it, is that the standard, the gold standard, is the production of something above and beyond, not just satisfactory, not just meets expectations, but excellence. And when you see excellence, that's when you get seriously creative and honest and passionate about giving effusive praise and some sort of interesting award. Otherwise, you're just handing out pieces of paper from a printer. Don't forget that within the context of a great relationship, even small amounts of thank you have big impact.
Let them see the real you.
Motivation for the motivated.